Negative 30 degrees. Oh my God, this is probably the coldest weather I've ever been in my entire life.
Beneath Antarctica's ice shelf, something massive is moving right now. And according to everything scientists thought they knew, it shouldn't be possible. We're talking about an entire hidden river system. Hundreds of miles of liquid water forcing its way through channels carved into rock and ice. Water that has been flowing in total darkness for tens of thousands of years. Water that is feeding ecosystems that shouldn't exist, carrying heat from volcanic systems that could destabilize the entire continent.
All of that gas, water vapor, and carbon dioxide coming up through the side of the volcano. But here, when it hits the air, that steam freezes.
For decades, researchers believed the Antarctic ice sheet was frozen solid, static, a giant block of ice sitting on cold, dead rock. That belief was wrong. The ice isn't sitting still. It's floating on a network of underground rivers that no one knew existed. Volcanic heat is rising from below, melting ice from underneath while the surface looks completely unchanged. And this hidden movement is accelerating, weakening the foundation of an ice sheet that holds 70% of Earth's fresh water. Scientists didn't discover this by accident. They drilled into ice that was supposed to be solid, and their equipment dropped into liquid water that hadn't seen light in 40,000 years. What they found down there changed everything we thought we understood about this frozen continent, and the implications could affect every coastal city on the planet. The discovery that started it all. When the research team arrived at Enigma Lake, they expected routine ice samples. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a glaciologist with 11 years of Antarctic experience, had drilled dozens of cores across the continent. This was supposed to be predictable work in one of Earth's most predictable environments. But here's the catch. The radar readings made no sense. Instead of showing solid ice extending deep below the surface, the signal bent and reflected in ways that suggested movement, liquid movement. Dr. Vasquez ran the calibration sequence 3 times. She checked the equipment for damage from the brutal transport conditions. Everything came back clean. The readings held. The cold here was different from anywhere else on the continent. It didn't just chill, it attacked. It crept through triple-layered gloves within minutes, cracked lips raw, and stole moisture from lungs with every breath. The wind never stopped, scraping across the ice like a blade. And the silence between gusts was oppressive. No wildlife, no running water. Nothing but the hum of equipment and the occasional crack of shifting ice in the distance. The team made a decision that carried real risk. They would drill. The drill cut through ice that hadn't been disturbed in millennia. Each meter down added weight to the tension in that research tent. Frost formed on equipment surfaces. Breath hung visible in the air. Then, at 40 feet below the surface, everything changed. The drill dropped. The line went slack. The high-pitched whine of metal against ice went silent. For a moment, no one moved. Dr. Vasquez felt her stomach tighten as she stared at the readings. They'd hit liquid water sealed beneath thick ice, untouched by sunlight, completely isolated from the world above. Water that had been waiting in darkness for longer than human civilization had existed. Dr. Marcus Chen, the team's microbiologist, examined the first samples. His face went pale. His hands, steady after years of field work, began to shake. "There's something alive in here," he said quietly, and that's putting it lightly. Life in the impossible zone. What Dr. Chen found should not exist. Not traces, not dormant spores waiting for better conditions. Living organisms, growing, feeding, thriving in total darkness where no life should survive. So here's the deal. Almost every ecosystem on Earth depends on sunlight. Plants convert light to energy. Animals eat plants. Even deep-sea creatures rely on organic matter drifting down from sunlit waters above. The entire chain starts with the sun, under 40 feet. Antarctic ice, there is no photosynthesis. There is no food chain. There is no apparent energy source at all. By every rule scientists understood, this environment should be sterile. Yet the floor of that lake was covered in thick microbial mats. Organized layers stacked on top of each other, each showing signs of growth over time. Some structures rose nearly 15 inches tall and held their shape instead of collapsing. They were stable. They were persistent. They had been building for ages. Dr. Chen spent 3 days analyzing samples before he trusted his own results. This level of organization takes thousands of years to develop, maybe tens of thousands. These organisms have been down here, completely cut off from the surface, evolving in isolation for longer than human civilization has existed, he explained to the team. They've never encountered modern bacteria. They've never been exposed to surface oxygen levels. This is a closed world. But here's the catch. They weren't just surviving. They were feeding on something. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, the team's geochemist, traced the chemical signatures in the water. What she found made her go silent for nearly an hour. She ran the analysis twice more before speaking. The organisms were feeding on chemical energy flowing into the lake from below. Minerals and compounds were being delivered through hidden pathways in the ice and rock, pathways that connected this isolated lake to systems spanning hundreds of miles beneath the frozen surface. The lake isn't sealed, Dr. Okonkwo finally said. It's connected to something much bigger. Something is feeding it from underneath. And get this, some researchers privately speculated that similar ecosystems might exist across vast stretches of the continent, completely unmapped. Whispers circulated about anomalous readings from other drilling sites that were never published. Data that raised more questions than institutions wanted to answer. If discoveries like this change how you see our planet, hit subscribe, because we're just getting started. But the water and the life were just pieces of a larger puzzle. What was driving it all? What was generating enough heat to keep liquid water stable in one of the coldest places on Earth? The answer made the lake discovery look like a footnote. The hidden rivers. Dr. Okonkwo's analysis revealed something that shook the entire research team. The water in Enigma Lake didn't come from surface melt. It didn't come from trapped precipitation. The chemical signature matched water that had traveled slowly through rock and deep ice over enormous distances. Basically, they'd discovered an underground river system that no one knew existed. Water from distant glaciers was being forced downward by immense pressure, then pushed sideways through cracks and channels beneath the ice sheet. These hidden pathways carried minerals, heat, and nutrients across hundreds of miles, feeding isolated ecosystems in total. Darkness, connecting regions that looked completely separate on the surface. It's not that simple, though. Ice under this much pressure should behave like solid stone. The crushing weight of the Antarctic ice sheet should squeeze every fracture shut and lock everything in place. That belief had shaped glaciology for decades. It was the foundation of how scientists understood this continent. Dr. David Reyes, a geophysicist who joined the analysis remotely, reviewed the data 3 times before accepting what it showed. The ice sheet isn't a single frozen mass, he said during a video call the team recorded. It's fractured, it's staying open, and the water is actively moving through channels that should have been crushed closed millions of years ago. His voice carried an edge that everyone noticed. This wasn't excitement, it was fear. Here's why that matters. For years, scientists blamed Antarctic ice loss mainly on warming air and rising ocean temperatures. Those forces are real. But Enigma Lake revealed a threat that satellites couldn't see. Water beneath the ice was reducing friction between ice and rock. Glaciers that should have been locked in place were sliding. Their bases were thinning, while their surfaces looked completely unchanged. Ice shelves could appear stable right up until the moment they collapsed. Cracks spread from below, weakness built in darkness. "We've been watching the surface while the real damage happens underneath," Dr. Reyes said. "By the time we see collapse beginning, it's already too late to stop it." But the subglacial water system still couldn't explain everything. Liquid water needs heat to stay liquid. Pressure helps, but it's not enough. That heat had to be coming from somewhere. When researchers traced its source, they found something that kept them awake at night. Fire beneath the ice. Dr. James Holloway had spent his career studying volcanic systems in Iceland and Hawaii. When he reviewed the thermal data from beneath West Antarctica, his reaction was immediate. "This is big," he said. "This is really big." Scientists have now confirmed that a massive volcanic network sits beneath the West Antarctic ice sheet. Dozens of volcanoes have been identified, some dormant, others showing clear signs of heat release and gas movement. All of them buried beneath miles of ice, invisible from the surface, working in silence. So here's the deal. For now, the crushing weight of that ice keeps these volcanoes from erupting. But that balance isn't stable. It's a system held in check by pressure, and that pressure is changing. As subglacial water carries heat through the ice, it melts ice from below. When ice melts, the weight pressing down decreases. When pressure drops, magma deep underground expands. Expanded magma releases more heat. More heat melts more ice. The ice grows thinner. Pressure drops further. The process feeds itself. Dr. Holloway ran the numbers multiple times. Once this cycle starts, he explained, it doesn't need outside help to continue. Rising air temperatures could accelerate it, but even if surface conditions stabilize tomorrow, the system beneath the ice would keep working. It's self-sustaining. And get this, some researchers believe the volcanic activity is increasing. Thermal readings from certain regions have shifted over the past 2 decades in ways that don't match surface temperature changes. There are whispers among glaciologists about data suggesting the underground heat is spreading, reaching areas that were stable just years ago. But here's the catch. Volcanic systems don't follow human schedules. They don't give warnings that fit within research funding cycles or political terms. Changes underground can happen slowly for centuries, then suddenly in days. Heat can increase, pressure can shift, water pathways can redirect. By the time surface signs appear, damage may already be irreversible. Antarctica holds over 70% of the planet's fresh water. If even a fraction of that ice destabilizes, sea levels rise dramatically. Coastal cities that have existed for centuries would face flooding that cannot be stopped. The continent that looked frozen and permanent from above was hiding forces powerful enough to reshape the world. But the most disturbing discovery wasn't the water, the life, or the volcanic heat. It was what researchers found frozen in the ice itself, a warning from Earth's past that humanity had already come dangerously close to extinction once before. Warnings frozen in time. Dr. Ingrid Larson specialized in paleoclimatology. She'd spent years extracting ice cores and reading Earth's climate history layer by layer. When she analyzed cores from the Enigma Lake region, she found something that made her sit down and stare at her screen for a long time. Buried within the ice were tiny air bubbles sealed away for nearly 1.2 million years. Each bubble preserved a sample of Earth's ancient atmosphere exactly as it existed at the moment the ice formed. "This is a time capsule," Dr. Larson said quietly. "We're looking at air that was last breathed over 1 million years ago." Inside those bubbles, she measured carbon dioxide, oxygen, and methane levels that told a detailed story. Temperature swings lasting tens of thousands of years, sudden climate shifts far faster than anyone expected, moments of stability followed by chaos. But here's the deal. One period stood out with disturbing clarity. Roughly 900,000 years ago, something went catastrophically wrong. Genetic evidence from modern humans suggests that during this time, the global population dropped to around 1,300 individuals. Humanity came within a breath of total extinction. The ice cores captured that moment in chilling detail. Long periods of extreme cold that crushed ecosystems, abrupt transitions that destroyed predictable seasons, food sources failing across entire continents. Our ancestors survived by the narrowest of margins, luck and resilience against relentless pressure. Dr. Larson looked at the data showing those ancient conditions. Then she looked at the readings from beneath the current ice sheet. Volcanic heat rising, water systems shifting, hidden forces building in darkness. "The ice remembers what happened before," she said, "and some of these patterns are starting to look familiar." What's building in the dark? The more scientists learn from Antarctica, the more they realize how close Earth has come to collapse before. These weren't freak accidents. They were natural outcomes of systems pushed past their limits. And now, something massive is moving beneath the ice again. Hidden rivers are carving pathways through frozen rock. Volcanic heat is rising from depths we can barely measure. Ecosystems that defy everything we know about life are thriving in total darkness, fed by forces we're only beginning to map. The ice sheet that looked permanent from satellites is shifting on foundations we cannot see. Some researchers believe we're watching the early stages of a process that could accelerate beyond our ability to stop it. Others argue the system has remained stable for thousands of years and will continue. The truth is, no one knows for certain what's building beneath that ice. What frightens scientists most isn't what they've already uncovered. It's what remains hidden beneath miles of frozen darkness, building pressure in silence, waiting for the moment when the balance finally breaks. Antarctica isn't dead. It never was. And whatever is happening down there, humanity has only just begun to notice. What do you think is really building beneath Antarctica? Let us know in the comments. And if this kept you watching, smash that like button and subscribe for more.